You ever feel like you care about somebody who don't deserve it? There's a reason for that. If things were just a little bit different, they would. And if you know what they went through, you'd have quite a bit different perspective. Fuck my story for the moment. Let's talk about Alycia and Michelle Bollinger. She was the second born of a set of twins. Her and her sister Natalie. Natalie would have given up everything in her life to see her sister happy. Everything. Including her own life. Natalie and Alycia were completely different. Natalie's favorite animal was a wolf. And Alicia's favorite animal was a unicorn. Natalie was into country and Alycia is into, well, I guess she calls it indie, but it all depends. Now, Michelle Bollinger and Natalie were both born in Boulder, Colorado. And their dad wasn't such a good man, neither was their mom. Not the best of parents. Both on drugs. Both drinkers. Natalie and her sister bounced back and forth in the foster care system in the state of Colorado, state of Rhode Island. Of course, both of those parents being as fucked up as they were, you know, those girls didn't really know who their mom was when they first went to live with their mom. They'd just heard horrible stories about her. You know how parents get when they want to act like children. Oh, she cheated on me. She's a cheating asshole.
Oh, he cheated on me. He cheated on me. You're emotionally cheating.
The fucking Jesus, can we stop and think about these kids? Alycia and Natalie growing up like that. So then, of course, they got this daddy just can't keep his nasty cock beaters to himself. If he's not beating on you, he's fucking you. I mean, Jesus goddamn Christ, who the fuck deserves that? Nobody. Nobody fucking deserves that from their fucking dad. Mom being too busy drinking, and she's got abusive men that she's dating too. So she dates abusive men over and over again. That's what she knows. Chances are pretty good. That's what she grew up with. Alicia's dad was a barber and a meth dealer. One of those boys who got every goddamn thing handed to him off of other people's work, and then he was selfish. Drugs were more important. When I found out how many of my friends in Boulder, Colorado got their drugs from Ted Bollinger, oh my God, I was so fucking sick to my stomach. I puked a lot. I mean, realizing that some of the people that I was going to for help, they didn't get their drugs directly from Ted Bollinger. They got it from somebody else who had gotten it from Ted Bollinger. After Natalie died, like I knew, you know, on the smaller levels where a lot of the drugs were coming from. And I did know about the drug dealers at the barber shop up on the hill over by the 7-Eleven. Attached to the same building as the police annex up there on the hill. It's no joke. That's where Ted Bollinger was dealing drugs out of. That's how he ended up with all three of his ex-wives. He had the drugs and he picked homeless addicts. Anyway, this is what Alycia got to grow up in with her twin sister. Of course, with twins, you don't necessarily get seen for who you are. So, Alycia was Natalie's best friend. Natalie pushed that real heavy. Alycia Bollinger was Natalie Bollinger's best friend, even when she was abusive. So, Ted Bollinger, being the piece of shit that he was, and with Rose M. Kelly, that's their mother, she just couldn't stop being with abusive men who were not allowed to be there. Rose M. Kelly could work together with Tabitha Michelle Cook. They got a lot in fucking common on that. Tabitha Michelle Cook kept several abusive men around for years and years and years. While Tabitha wasn't abusing her kids, those men were. So I met Natalie and Alycia when they were, I guess 13 according to Natalie. They were friends with a lesbian named Maddie Boa. And I used to have to run off the road. She was hanging out with the crowd. Later on, you find out why it is that I tried running her off. What ended up happening with Maddie Boa. She ended up getting addicted to them drugs, selling them drugs, and making bad decisions because of them drugs. Natalie and Alycia Bollinger were down there selling those drugs for their dad. I tried to run them off too. Many years later, they both thanked me for that and told me they understood. But Natalie loved Alycia, and Alycia loved Natalie. And their dad just couldn't keep his hands to himself, couldn't keep his dick to himself, and had them underage girls down there, 13 years of age, selling drugs, hanging out with some of the worst as far as the homeless community has to offer, day in and day out. But I wasn't a guy who was out there trying to touch on them, trying to get drugs from them, trying to get them to do drugs or any of that. I was the one trying to encourage them to go find somewhere else to be. Find some friends their age to hang out with, and for the love of God, not be down there worshiping that society, because it's no good. What a lot of people don't understand about homelessness is that homeless people aren't all bad. There's a lot of bad people out there. There's a system set up that encourages people to believe we're all bad people. Alycia's sister Natalie thought she was in love with me, and yes, Alycia was aware. When they were about 13 or 14, this is after me trying to run them off a lot. Now, I got in a lot of BS issues with some other homeless people who also ran the kids off, but these people were a lot more mean than I was. They also weren't trying to maintain a safe and healthy relationship with the Starbucks there. The thing about me being at Starbucks, because that was a safe place for me, is that it is also supposed to be a safe place for anyone else. Anyone else. Even if they're homeless people, even if they're gay, even if they're straight, even if they're children. So of course the youngins want to come in and talk to me, like Pierre, like Matty Boa. Not much I could do, you know. Outside of Starbucks, I was a lot different to them. And a lot of them did make mention of that. Like Shiloh Marie Epp. She hated me out on the street. For good goddamn reason, she shouldn't have been there either. Holy fuck. When she come and talked to me at Starbucks, I was different. I explained to them why it is they needed to not be there. And that's what got me in trouble with some of the homeless people. We call them regulators. These are the best men out here. What do regulators do? And by the way, Desiree, yeah, she's a woman, but she was a regulator out here too. You're goddamn right she was. What do regulators do? They protect people. They save lives. They run off pedophiles and rapists or get rid of them altogether. That's what regulators do. Alycia Bollinger and her mom and her sister, they all know Desiree. They all know my older brother Eric too. He's a regulator for damn sure. Alycia and Natalie both had very, very bad people in their lives. So when they were about 14, there was an issue with their dad. He just couldn't be a father. Instead of a pervert and a drunk. And he was beating on Natalie and Alycia. And so Natalie and Alycia got into sleeping bags, one with Emery and one with Arturo. These girls were 14 at the time. 14. I came by the next morning. I took one look at the situation and I started screaming at them son of a bitches. No, I didn't start screaming, did I? No, I was definitely holding back screaming at those son of a bitches. I let them two young ladies know in no uncertain terms that they were to go home right fucking now. I also explained to Emery and Arturo, that is not what you do. You stand vigilant, that's what you do. If there's going to be two people in a sleeping bag, if those two gentlemen, one of them wants to sleep part of it, and the other one keep watch, Natalie and Alycia could have cuddled together in a sleeping bag if it was that desperate a situation, but it wasn't. Those girls should have never been out there. So when I saw them in the morning, I let them know that's not okay. Now it came years later. I hadn't seen Natalie and Alycia since then. Didn't even know their fucking names. I just knew they were underage and that Emery and Arturo should not have been where they were or doing what they were doing. So, Natalie and Alycia both saw me one night. They were walking with a couple of gentlemen. I didn't know if they were dates or what. I just assumed. Much older men, but not like, well, not in their 30s or anything like that. But Natalie and Alycia always look small. They always look like kids to me. There is no way that Alycia Bollinger is ever going to look like anything other than a kid to me. But her and her sister always being in competition, and Natalie having a big crush on me, thinking she was in love with me. Alycia knew. Natalie and Alycia both told me they loved me often after that. Here's the thing, when they came and saw me, they both told me their names. And before that, I hadn't bothered to find out their names, ask them their names, or learn their names. I didn't care. I didn't want those kids down there. Looking back, I probably should have tried to find out all those kids' names, just in case something fucking did happen to them, I could do something and say something immediately. Instead of going, alright, it was, there's some twin girls that are down here sometimes, or, some description like that, because that isn't always a whole lot of help, especially when you need to do something immediately. After I ran Natalie and Alycia off when they were 14, Natalie and Alycia went and told on their dad. Natalie went and told on their dad for what he was doing to them. The physical assaults, the drinking. Ted already had a pretty long rap sheet. He'd already beaten a few of his wives, or literally all of them. He'd been in and out of prison already a few times. People knew what kind of a piece of shit he was. He used to drive down there in a white van to drop his daughters off. More than once I saw that fucking van, and I knew something fucked up was going on. Turned out it was Ted Bollinger. Natalie and Alycia let me know many years later that their dad was raping them and beating them, getting drunk, getting all fucked up on meth, and having them do meth and sell meth. I exposed Ted with that message from Natalie Bollinger, Alicia's sister. She'd sent that to me in 2016. When Natalie and Alycia became adults, after all that time in the system, after all that bullshit with their dad, after seeing their stepmothers almost beaten to death, Natalie and Alycia Bollinger came into my life, and Alycia Bollinger, well, she had her own life going on, while Natalie and Maddie Boa saved my life. Rescued me from ending my own. Alycia had a lot of friends. She was real popular. She always got more likes on her pictures by a lot. She always got more likes than Natalie. But they're young and pretty, and they try to dress up pretty and put on pretty makeup and be smiley and happy and get positive attention, and it didn't work. It didn't work. These people didn't love them right. So Alycia had a twin sister once. Her name was Natalie, and she wanted her life to end. And she begged and she pleaded, and she cut and she cut and she cut and she cut. And she thought she was in love with some old homeless dude. And she was dating Tim Beeson, and he was such a fucking dick. You know how many of my friends had to go through that, where a guy will be an abusive asshole, but then he'll buy her a puppy. And then he can use that puppy to control her. Well, Natalie wasn't down with that. We planned to get Natalie safely away from that environment, away from her dad, away from drugs, away from Tim Beeson. And Natalie's mom helped, but Natalie wasn't even gonna go to Virginia unless she could see me first. Her and Alycia kept on telling me they loved me and sending me messages telling me they loved me. They were adults by this time, by the way. Natalie wasn't gonna go to Virginia to try to recuperate. I had to leave Boulder so I could recuperate. I understood completely why she left Colorado to recuperate. Natalie was telling me I was the only reason she was sticking around. She was trying to help me to get a job. She had a boss who was a friend of the family and had a wife and kids, and he was being a pervert to her, and she just... And Tim Beeson being a violent, domineering asshole like her dad. And Alycia Bollinger came to her rescue. And Alycia Bollinger made sure that she was safe. And Alycia Bollinger made sure she got on the airplane, and Natalie called me and she said she wasn't going to leave unless I came to see her first. So I drove all the way to Denver, and her and Maddie Boa and Alycia Bollinger all had their phones off. So then she told me that she wasn't going to Virginia unless I promised to go to Virginia and see her. So I promised to go to Virginia and see her. And Natalie and Alycia both kept in contact with me. And then Natalie tried to kill herself. She tried to kill herself because I wasn't there fast enough, and Alycia Bollinger got to see that. She got to see the aftermath of it anyway. Meanwhile, by this time, these girls had been strung out on drugs for a lot of years. And I finally made it to Virginia. And Alycia Bollinger and Natalie Bollinger were so kind to me. They were so nice to me. They were so wonderful to me. When I got there and all the people that I came there to see, none of them were there. Brett Roloff wasn't there. He was in jail. Mahalia Jean-Pierre had gotten on an airplane to go to Boulder. Natalie wasn't even going to get on the airplane to Virginia unless I promised to go. So I promised to go, and I went. And I wasn't in good shape, and I was having a rough time, and a lot of my friends had just thrown me away because my back was fucked. And they were so mean to me because I couldn't do what they wanted right when they wanted. And because I wasn't able to do it, they wanted to interpret it as I'm not trying. And then, when I was in Virginia, I had to sell some stuff along the way. Whatever somebody would buy so that I could get the gas and pay my phone bill. That way I could still talk to people and I could still communicate, because for someone who's autistic, that's my lifeline. I got to Virginia, and Alycia Bollinger, she insisted that while I'm there, that I come stay behind where she worked at the Cricket store over in Chesapeake. So I did. She had to talk me into it, though. I didn't really want to. I'd picked a good Starbucks on a good road, and I was talking to some nice folks from one of the local churches, and they wanted a mural done. And I thought I could do that. Alicia and her sister insisted that we go out and go to Virginia Beach, and we did. And it was wonderful, despite the fact that there was also two very drunk men there that were, well, Natalie and Alicia were only 18. They weren't old enough to buy their own booze. And Natalie was crippled. She had a bunch of pins in her leg from trying to kill herself. She'd lost her job at the cricket store before I got there. They got into a couple accidents while I was there, but let me tell you how nice Alicia was and how good she tried to be. So she insisted that her boyfriend would help me if I had any problems with the internet or problems with my phone. And of course, it was just a flip phone at the time. And Natalie and her sister kept in contact with me. And Alicia, every day that she worked, she invited me over for every cigarette break and about every other lunch. When I walked by her store, sometimes she'd just message me to let me know she saw me walk by the store. Her and her sister were wonderful to me while I was there. We survived the storm, Hurricane Matthew. It wasn't. And we did plan a lot of things together, but Alicia, she had to be the chauffeur for her sister because her sister had totaled her car and messed up her leg and couldn't go anywhere alone, and she was having to take opiates. She was trying to go to Virginia so she could get off of the heroin, and she'd fucked herself up so bad trying to kill herself that she was on opiates. And that's when I was there to visit her, was when Natalie was all fucked up on those pain pills. I just didn't want her to fucking kill herself, you know? And so while I was there, I was already physically injured from over a year before when Natalie had rescued me from killing myself. Or from earlier that year. She rescued me from killing myself. I'd actually been like that since October of 2015. About a year before everything happened in Virginia. Alicia, she wanted to make sure that I had a phone that worked, a modern phone, a smartphone. She wanted to go to Virginia Beach, so that's where we went. She wanted to have me stay behind where she worked at the cricket store, so that's where I went. I was staying in a Walmart parking lot before that, just so you know. Well, 2 Walmarts and a Sam's Club. Well, Michelle Bollinger wanted to insist, her and her sister Natalie both, that we go out. We went to a place just before Hurricane Matthew hit. It was a pagoda and a pier in Norfolk. It's Norfolk, Virginia, not Norfolk, Nebraska. And we went to a Chinese place to get some takeout. And Alicia Bollinger was on the phone. Alicia and Natalie were on the phone with their stepmother, Shelley, trying to convince her to go to Virginia. Alicia was trying to get me a job, and they had decided that I needed to move to Virginia. And Alicia was telling me about the different apartments that she had looked at and picked out, and that she wanted me to go look at some with her. I told her I wasn't planning on staying there that long. I was gonna be there long enough for for Natalie to heal up, and then I was gonna head back to Colorado and see Maddie Boa. Maddie Boa was real important to me too. She was one of Alicia's love interests at one point in time. They had a relationship, and Alicia and Natalie were a set to Maddie Boa. She kind of looked at him as, she had Alicia, she wanted Natalie too. but they were also really good friends. For my birthday, me and Natalie, we both didn't want to go anywhere. We were just planning on hanging out in her mom's driveway, somewhere close by, somewhere where we didn't have to fucking drive. Well, I ended up getting dehydrated on my birthday. Natalie had an old broken phone that she didn't use anymore because it didn't work. It made calls on its own and fucking all sorts of stupid shit. She didn't like it, so she was using a different phone that was broken. Alycia insisted, and this was a couple days before my birthday, she insisted on changing my phone number over from my flip phone. Instead of spending $45 every time my phone ran out of minutes to try to get more minutes, she wanted to change it over to Cricket. Make my number into a Cricket number, and she was going to pay the bill herself. She was insisting on this. This is going to be my birthday present from her. And I really didn't want to. But she insisted, and I let her. And it took over 2 hours to get the number transferred. And it cost money to do that. And I'd been working at a labor ready, and Michelle Bollinger had helped me to get that job at labor ready. And my back was fucked, but I tried to do the work anyway, and that was probably the worst thing I could have done for myself. I fucked myself up permanently. And Michelle Bollinger, when she had given me Natalie's old phone, and she'd changed it over into my name, I hadn't seen anything but the back of the phone yet. I didn't even know what it looked like. And when she changed the number over, so that it was on Natalie's old phone, looked like it had been used as target practice. I'd had a car that I got from David and Laura Nelson that I drove there, and it wasn't in the best of condition. And this phone, I was arguing with some people that I stopped being friends with while I was in Virginia. Later came into my life. We'll get to that later. A lot of friends of mine who hadn't been friends in a long time, I let them know that I didn't want them to be a part of my life anymore. That I didn't like the hateful people they were, or the pain they caused, or the fact that they kept on using and abusing me. I didn't like it. And Natalie and Alycia weren't like that to me. They both treated me wonderfully. They treated me like I was a human being, and I almost didn't know what that was like. So while I was in Virginia, I had been suicidal for over a year since I hurt my back. Alycia was really wanting me to do things that I wasn't comfortable with. But I did them anyway. I let her talk me into it every time. I let Natalie talk me into going to Virginia. I let Alycia talk me into staying behind the Cricket store. I let them both talk me into going to the Virginia beach. I let them talk me into taking that phone and letting Alycia have it in her name. And me and Natalie both let Alycia talk us into going to Elliot's Coffee Grounds for my birthday. That's what we did for my birthday in Virginia. You can see the messages between Natalie and I, and Alycia and I. We were friends. But then that phone, and the fact that I got severely dehydrated on my birthday, and I'd really fucked myself up trying to work at a labor ready cleaning up the mess from Hurricane Matthew. And my car wasn't wanting to work right anyway. And Michelle Bollinger, she drove us for my birthday. She drove us to Elliot's Coffee Grounds in my car. She did the driving. And we had a wonderful time. Natalie told me at one point that her and her sister were fighting over a boy. There was also a man there who was completely smitten with Natalie, and of course we had to stop and pause and give him a bunch of attention, so we didn't get to speak much. And that phone was completely fucked, and her mom found her heroin. That didn't end well. So we had to cut my birthday short. That was the last time I ever saw Natalie Bollinger. My phone wouldn't work. I didn't know how to work it. I was trying to go to Alycia's boyfriend for help, like she'd told me to. Because she'd told me that she was going to show me how to use it, but she had quit her job about 10 minutes after transferring the phone number over. But it was in her name, and she was going to pay the bill. At one point, me and Natalie were discussing the code for the phone so that I could pay the bill. Alycia had that information, not Natalie and not me, even though it was my phone. Well, it was Natalie's old phone. And it wouldn't work. And for like 3 days, well, I'm severely fucking dehydrated in that fucking car. And Alycia has quit her job, but I'm still staying behind the Cricket store. Natalie didn't work there. She had worked there before I went to Virginia. Anyway, after a few days of being dehydrated and being overwhelmed and that phone not working right, and Natalie was going to talk to me on Monday. I didn't make it to Monday because I was severely dehydrated. I was scared. I was alone. I had nobody to talk to. I just stuck. I couldn't go work for Labor Ready because I was all fucked up physically. I literally couldn't work. And Natalie was going to talk to me on Monday. It would have been only like 2 or 3 days. That's it. That's all I had to wait. But I was fucking severely dehydrated. And I was overwhelmed. The phone wasn't working, so contacting anybody was nearly impossible. The fucking text messaging was the worst because the word prediction thing, I was tired of it typing that I was ducking. No, I just wanted Tyler Frerichs' friend to fucking leave me alone. Stop being a fucking douchebag. So then a few days after my birthday, I was severely dehydrated. I was going over to Natalie and Alycia's. I'd already dropped off a wheelchair for them because Natalie's leg. It wasn't a very nice wheelchair. I got it from Terry Duffield and Melody Harms in Chapel, Nebraska. Anyway, while I was visiting, and I went over there to try to explain what was going on with the phone and what was going on with me being dehydrated and what was going on with me being overwhelmed. My car got stuck in the road and it broke. Somebody drove by me and it scared the shit out of me. They honked at me and I was scared. My car was broken. My phone was broken. And so I honked the horn and stared forward. I didn't want to see it coming if someone come around the corner and ran into me. And so Alycia had messaged me while I was sitting there. I couldn't type anything back at her. There was no way in hell. With my phone not working right and doing whatever the fuck it wanted anyway, because all the cracks on the goddamn screen, and it was a smartphone. I mean, my flip phone was easy to work. It didn't have 10,000 cracks on the screen. So I didn't text her back, and I made sure that I kept the horn on because I didn't want to get plowed into. I was there about 15 minutes when the cops got there, and, Natalie and Alycia's mom had come out, and she mouthed the words, "I'm calling the cops." And I mouthed the word "thank you" to her. I was so glad because I was just stuck. That's all I had going on right then and there, is that I was fucking stuck. It wasn't some hateful thing towards anybody. It wasn't some Sean's an evil, horrible person trying to stalk somebody or threaten to kill anybody or anything fucking creepy like that. It was that I was just plain and simple fucking stuck. So the cops came. The officer promised me that they weren't going to tow my vehicle, that my friends were going to watch it for me. I'd read on the computer screen that it said something about I was stalking a male resident of that address. And I was like, I wasn't stalking anybody. My fucking car got stuck. And I got to the hospital, and that's where they took me, by the way. They didn't arrest me. They could tell pretty much immediately that I was having a medical emergency and I needed help. They took me to the hospital. In the hospital, they were wanting to have me talk to a therapist. And they took all of my stuff, my phone, everything like that, and they put it all in a bag. And then they had me go in. They were going to have me talk to a therapist, but the nurses insisted that with the, they have to do your vitals. They insisted I get something started. So they put a IV in me, and a doctor came in. She was just insisting I get an IV in. So I got an IV in, and they started pumping me with fluids and had me, of course, get into their hospital gown. And they were going to give me the whole mentally ill on suicide watch treatment. I was like, I'm not trying to kill myself. I'm fucking obviously dehydrated. Obviously, I'm overwhelmed. I came here to see my friend. I was basically bullied here under the threat of she's going to kill herself to get here. Her mom found her heroin on my birthday, and my car busted down outside of her house when I was trying to explain the phone I got for my birthday isn't fucking working, and it's creating some issues. So, of course, when I was in the hospital, I was only in there for a couple hours. I told the officer, hey, you know what? They're just going to give me a piece of paper and drop me off on the street. They're not going to actually help. I don't know what you're expecting they're going to do, because he had all these promises he swore they were going to do, but they don't. They just promise you so they can drop you off, and hopefully you won't bother them again. Well, that particular officer had promised me that my vehicle wasn't going to get towed, and if it did get towed, that he promised that he would personally make sure that he got it out. And after I was at the hospital and everything checked out as far as my story went, and they did have me talk to a therapist lady, and she understood too. She's like, well, it makes sense, you don't want to travel hundreds of miles because your friend was going to pity party you with suicide, and then she's all strung out on drugs. What do you do, So they released me with a piece of paper like I said they would. I made sure that I called the police to have them have that particular officer talk with me, and he eventually did. And I was also in contact with Alex Furman from Boulder, Colorado, and Brandon Ratner, who I knew from Boulder, Colorado, and Brenda Dickinson, who lived in Chapel, Nebraska, to try to get help getting some money to get home, or to get money to get my vehicle out, because it didn't seem like the officer was going to respond or going to get it out. He was just going to drag it out. Well, eventually he did show up, and he gave me a ride he coordinated with me and Brenda Dickinson. He gave me a ride to the place where my car had been towed, and that's when I realized that somebody had broken my vehicle. Well, they weren't too in tune or in key with giving a shit about that. The thing is that my vehicle had been paid for already by insurance, so I didn't have to pay for the tow, especially since I had been taken to the hospital, obviously, and not jail. Now, all my phone and all that stuff, it was in a bag, and they wouldn't let me have that bag until I left. But it had all the evidence of the conversations Natalie and I had. I could have showed it to that therapist pretty easily. She only came in for maybe half an hour or so, just long enough to hear my story and make sure it checks out. And so when I went back and got my vehicle and had to stay the night outside of a Food Lion, where one of the employees there totally took care of me. Made sure that I had food, made sure that I had a charger so I could charge my phone. I didn't even have a charger for my phone, it was all in my car. So then, Alycia Bollinger, she texted me again. I texted her and her sister to let them know what was going on and tell them if they were afraid, I understood, and that I would leave and never contact them again. And I sent that message to Natalie and to Alycia. And I also said about trying to turn in the officers or the tow truck company for messing up my vehicle. I called up the tow truck company. They explained that they hadn't messed with my vehicle, that the cops had done that. So I started trying to turn it into the cops, and the lady started playing stupid on the phone, as dispatch always does when you tell them that one of the officers has done something bad. They always play retarded. Those officers shouldn't have fucked up my vehicle. I wasn't stalking anybody. I didn't know a male at that residence. I knew Natalie and Alycia, and that was it. So while I was trying to turn those officers in for the shit that they'd done to my car, I got a message from Natalie Bollinger. She told me that she loved me and that her family was afraid of me, and not to talk to her again, which is the offer that I'd made, obviously. I don't know if it was Natalie Bollinger or if it was Alycia on Natalie's phone or what. But I do know that I stopped trying to turn in those cops, and I fucking left that state that very same fucking day. So on my way back home to Boulder, since insurance had paid for getting my vehicle out, I had the money to leave Virginia that day, and I drove away that day. I made sure I got as far away from Alycia Bollinger, Natalie Bollinger, and their family as I could. So Alycia Bollinger called up Maddie Boa and claimed that I threatened to kill her and her family and a bunch of other creepy shit that never fucking happened. Claimed that I was arrested, that I'd done all sorts of fucked up shit that never fucking happened. So then I had to deal with Maddie Boa spreading rumors to all my friends, all of her drug addict friends in Boulder, Colorado. Going to see any of my friends in Boulder, Colorado was a dangerous thing because people were threatening to kill me and people were assaulting me. I was able to get housing in Nebraska, but Nebraska fucking sucks and I didn't have any real friends there. All my friends were in Colorado. The people I knew in Nebraska were basically mouths, but they weren't going to do anything to help anybody because they were too afraid of what people thought. So I had to try to get help stopping the abuse. I got disability, and I was promised that once I got disability that I'd be able to turn these people in and the cops would have to do their job for once, instead of just blowing me off because I'm a man. Well, in the meantime, I had a lot of people threatening to kill me and threatening to kill my friends and family, calling me up at all odd hours of the night, making my life a living hell. I couldn't fucking sleep with all that shit going on. I couldn't go see any friends who were sober or would actually make time to actually hang out for any reason whatsoever. I had Jeff Baldridge, but a lot of times he had people over there that were assholes, like David Root. And David Root was going to bully me no matter what. So it was either sit there and take it like a little bitch or leave. So I left, just like I had it in Virginia when Natalie and Alycia wanted to people their bullshit. But when they called Maddie Boa to pretend like I was threatening to kill them and their family, that's the most fucked up thing. Because Maddie Boa went around Boulder, Colorado, spreading all sorts of fucking rumors about me. And they got out of hand. And I couldn't take care of myself, and I was still injured. I finally got my disability, but I had to move to Colorado to do what the people in Nebraska wanted me to do. Instead of them helping me stop the abuse, they wanted me to go to the Front Range of Colorado. Because there's supposed to be services there that help autistic people along the Front Range of Colorado. Well, those places didn't help me. So I had to go to therapy. I had to go to therapy because Natalie and Alicia's druggy friends wanted to pretend like I was a child molester or a rapist or a murderer. Or that I was gonna be. All because Natalie and Michelle Bollinger were embarrassed in Virginia and pretended that I stalked them. And then they pretended like I was on drugs. While people actually stalked me, they pretended I stalked them. When people actually assaulted me, they pretended they were afraid I would assault them. When people threatened to kill me, they wanted to pretend I threatened to kill them. When people threatened to kill my friends and family, they pretended I threatened to kill them and theirs. But the thing is, if they hadn't pretended that I stalked them in Virginia, pretended that I threatened them and their family in Virginia, pretended that I was on drugs, and that I was some sort of a nut job in Virginia, none of this would have happened. None of this would have happened if they hadn't played victim because they were embarrassed. For over a year, after I left Virginia, I was getting people harassing me on the internet, making fake accounts to harass me in YouTube, Facebook, well, not YouTube, but in Facebook, in emails, calling me up. I got sick of it, and I didn't know how to do the electronic shit that I needed to do to be able to even just send Natalie Bollinger a screenshot of what was going on. Of all the fucking harassment calls that I was getting, of the fucking fake accounts. People were pretending to be my friends, pretending to be Riley Johnson and shit. And I went to my friends. I went to as many of my friends as I could to try to get the abuse to stop. I wanted them to try to understand instead of talking over me, instead of mansplaining at me or womansplaining at me. They could have stopped and listened to what was going on. They'd have had better advice if they knew what the fuck is going on. I might have actually asked for their advice if they knew what was going on, but I didn't go to them for advice. I went to them because I already knew the protocol for turning in abusers. And I already knew that my abusers were just going to call me mentally ill. I knew that as women who had drugs, who sold drugs, and were very popular, and because of all of the abuse that I was taking already, I already knew I wasn't going to get hurt unless a friend or family member gave a shit. And none of them gave a shit enough to hear. They were too busy giving advice or telling me some pretty fucking meme that they just read on the goddamn computer. Trying to change the subject or saying, oh, well, we'll have coffee. See, this isn't real coffee, is it? No, this is some fantasy coffee, like a fantasy tea party. Joanna Taylor Smith, for months and months and months, was going to have coffee with me. She didn't understand. She needed to call and fucking listen, not give me pretty memes and empty goddamn promises. I'd had to pay rent in 2 different places, so I couldn't afford to stay at either. Luckily, I got disability money, so finally somebody was supposed to do something about the abuse. But the people in Colorado, Jeff Ritter, Kara Heller, they weren't doing anything with that at all. And then there was Nicole Gerald. She was my therapist at the time, too. And Nicole Peralta was still my therapist. I was seeing 3 different therapists right before Natalie died. It's Alicia's twin sister. Finally, I got fed up with it. I got fed up with people abusing me as if I was the one who pulled a Ted Bollinger on those girls. As if I was the one who pulled a Tim Beeson on those girls. As if I was the one. As if I was the one who pulled a Rose M. Kelly on those girls. As if I was the one who pulled a Danica Garner on those girls. As if I was the one who had pulled a Rochelle Shelley Campbell on those girls. I spoke up about it on my YouTube and on my Facebook, and I continued to beg for help. I had a lot of people telling me, well, you should start a GoFundMe. So I tried, but nobody would help me to do that. They promised me that if I went here or I went there, that this person would help me and that person would help me. Or if I could get there, they'd help me and I'd get there. And no. With Joanna Taylor Smith, who was going to have coffee and try to put a stop to the situation with all this abuse with Natalie and Alycia and Maddie. The one who claimed that if I killed myself, that she would make their life a living hell. The one who prompted me to make a new a new Facebook profile. I did it differently than Joanna Taylor Smith wanted me to. She was also trying to encourage me to take drugs to cope with things. No. No drugs for me. That's not fucking coping. That's not changing a goddamn thing. She thought I should take pain pills for pain management for my back. I did make a fake profile, like Joanna Taylor Smith wanted. And I was going to use that fake profile to destroy my real one so that people like Joanna Taylor Smith wouldn't be able to go to my Facebook and use any of that stuff as fuel to hurt people after I had ended my life. I didn't want Natalie or Alycia or Maddie to be hurt. But Natalie wouldn't come forward, and people were hurting me and threatening to kill me and threatening to kill my family and assaulting me, and I was stuck with social isolation and the burden of going to therapy after therapy after therapy, costing me so much fucking money. All of my disability money being spent traveling to go to places that are supposed to fucking help me, for them to not help me. I had to make a choice between staying in Chapel, Nebraska, where there's no services, or living with drug dealers in Englewood, Colorado, so that I could see Jeff Ritter and Kara Heller and Nicole Gerald. And then I had to travel back to Nebraska to see Nicole Peralta. Jump through all the hoops they wanted me to. I spent all of that money jumping through all of the hoops that they wanted me to. I spent all of that time jumping through all of the hoops that they wanted me to, because I had the promise of, if I jump through all these fucking hoops, then someone will step in and stop this shit. But after jumping through all those hoops, nobody helped to stop that shit. All the people like Kayla Trujillo who promised they would help. People like Dawn Bird. People like Brenda Dickinson. People like Tamara and Nicole's. Both of the Nicoles. They didn't come through. They didn't try to come through because there's incentive for them monetarily to keep me on as a client. But there's having to cancel meetings with other people if you do your job as a mandated reporter. Doing your job as a mandated reporter may take 3 to 5 hours of your day or longer, depending on the amount and extent of the abuse. When your money that you're getting from the government is dependent on having a bunch of people who have comorbid conditions, and you get extra money if one of those comorbid conditions is a drug or alcohol addiction. People are encouraged to do drugs in Nebraska so they can be a part of these things. Because many of these places, like Region 1 Nebraska and Region 2 Nebraska, unless you're on drugs as one of the comorbids, they don't want to take you. You're not a priority because they can't get as much money from you. They can't get as much money from the government because there's all this free money for treating addicts. What do you mean by treating addicts? Do you mean helping them to stop the abuse? Or do you mean setting them up for therapy month after month after month after month, where they still have to look over their shoulder every moment of every day for their predators? Adam S. typed, "Oi, oi, boss lad. Hello from UK. Welcome. Welcome to my channel." I have Asperger's. It's high-functioning autism. They classify Asperger's as high-functioning autism not because it's actual autism. It's absolutely not. It's because people with autism and people with Asperger's are both easily talked over and victimized and discredited. Adam S. typed, "Good to be here." Well, I'm glad you're here too, Adam. I'm trying to teach the futility of racism by being racist against everyone. I'm trying to teach the futility of sexism by being sexist against everyone. I keep hoping somebody will get the hint, somebody will get the clue. Let's get to the important part here. Alycia Bollinger's gone through hell, same as me. She grew up in the system, same as me. She had parents that weren't worth a shit, same as me. She was raped and beaten and force-fed drugs, same as me. She knew a lot of the same son of a bitches out on the streets. And I know that she's kind-hearted and good-intentioned. Same as Natalie. They didn't intend bad things. They were embarrassed. And once they started lying, they just couldn't stop themselves. They didn't stop to recognize that that one little white lie that they told just because they didn't want to get in trouble with their mothers. That one little white lie was enough to destroy my life. Was enough to make it so that I couldn't go back to Boulder, Colorado and see my loved ones without being taken advantage of, being abused, being assaulted, being threatened. Having someone threaten to kill my family or my friends. Having people call me up on the phone and harassing me through emails. And all my friends could do is talk about having fantasy coffee, open-ended eventually someday. By the time Natalie Bollinger got that protection order against me, I had just exposed her dad with an email that she had sent to me over a year earlier. I didn't know that she wasn't in Virginia, and I was pissed off that she was able to get a protection order from all the way in Virginia. And I wasn't able to get a protection order or even get a cop to do anything but talk over me, tell me that how to think and how to feel, tell me I just needed to let it go, tell me I just needed to man up, tell me they got real police work to do, send me to mental health, tell me I needed to go talk to the DA about it. You got a problem? Well, go talk to the DA. That's not my issue. One of the most popular ones, though. Officers telling me that I needed to get a lawyer. I'm an at-risk and disabled adult. I've spent all of my time and money and resources at this point into jumping through all the hoops that I'm supposed to jump through so that the cops will do their job for me the same way that they would do it for a woman. Instead, how's it used? Instead, it's, oh, Sean just doesn't want to work. Sean didn't want to get a job. Sean wasn't trying to get help. Oh, Sean needs therapy. You know, you just need to see therapy. You just need to see a therapist. I'd been going to fucking therapy, you twits. Why didn't you try talking to the cops? I fucking did, you goddamn twits. You know, you should have come to me. I fucking did, you goddamn twits. How many times are you going to tell me to go to you for help? For you to always be too busy. For you to always be too broke. For you to always be busy talking about yourself. You have no idea what abuse I'm even taking. When you're busy trying to make empty promises about we'll have coffee. We'll have coffee. We'll have coffee. I spoke up about the abuse that I was taking and why. I spoke up loud and fucking proud on my Facebook, and that video is still up. From what I explained, that I'm not keeping anyone else's secrets because they get people killed. That was before Natalie died. When I was in Virginia and they pretended like I was there to threaten their lives and stalk them, you can see all the messages between them and I. There was no fucking stalking there. We were fucking friends. Natalie was the one who wanted more. Alycia was the one who wanted more. Then Natalie's sister got her fucking brains blown out. And Alycia still couldn't come down off of her goddamn pride. And every time she disappeared after Natalie's death, first time one of Natalie's ex-stepmothers got a hold of me and wanted help finding her and getting her safe. Turned out she was in jail. Methamphetamines. Natalie Bollinger, when she got her brains blown out, it was Joseph Michael Lopez who blew her brains out. Meanwhile, I was getting disability money, but I was being taken advantage of by Ken Wilson and Leah Plunkett, who I was staying with. I didn't have any fucking money. Apparently, I was supposed to have a court date on the 22nd, even if I'd have known I had a fucking court date. I couldn't have made it because I had $0 fucking dollars. I didn't get paid my disability money till the 23rd of the month. The day after the court I was supposed to have, apparently. But nobody ever told me I had a court date. I had no fucking clue about that shit. The guy who was supposed to be helping me with that was Jeff Ritter, who told me that he wasn't going to be able to help me until after the first of the year. Why? Because the government's closed down. It's the end of the year. So how are they able to have fucking court without me when the fucking government is closed down for the end of the year? How is that fucking possible, Jeff Ritter? Oh yeah, after Natalie got her brains blown out, all of these people wanted to fucking hide like rats. Jeff Ritter, Kara Heller, Nicole Gerald, Nicole Peralta, Tamara, Brenda Dickinson, Veronica Bruce, and all my friends, too. All the friends who'd promised that they would help. Brandon Ratner, Joanna Taylor-Smith, Alex Furman. All of them. Dee Dee Klang, Rodney Klang. All of them. I let people who stopped being my friends when I was in Virginia over racist posts, racist acts, hatred, bullying, and outright lying to me. One of those people was Candace Bondurant. Another was Lana Engeline. Another was Amanda Engeline. Another was Jerry Sparks. Another was her son who made the post, Tyler Frericks. I stopped being friends with all of them. I blocked them all on Facebook. I was fucking done with them. When I left Virginia, I blocked Natalie and Alycia Bollinger, and they would have stayed blocked if it hadn't been for the fact that people were threatening to kill me and my friends and family, and I was being socially isolated from my loved ones. I couldn't even go see my older brother, for Christ's sake. people like Pierre Byron and people like Ryan James promised they'd show up and never did. Had people like Jonathan Hickson and Lexi Woods telling me to go fucking kill myself. You get to see all the good and nice things that I did in Virginia. I got that tattoo stuff for my birthday, and I was going to have it sent to Virginia. And I was going to split it with Natalie and Alycia Bollinger so they could start doing tattoos. And my friend Sage in Chicago was sending me a birthday present to their mom's house. But instead, look what happened. Because I wasn't allowed to go to court, because I had no representation, because none of the places that I was sent to actually helped. All of them, from Colorado Coalition to the Homeless, to Region 1 Nebraska, to Region 2 Nebraska, rode the clock for cash. Government cash. Your taxpayer cash. The taxpayer dollars. The money that they take from you, that you could use to take care of you and your family. That they take from you because they're promising to take care of us. They're promising that they'll take care of your family if you give them that tax money. And because you gave them that tax money, you don't have the money to help out your friends and family. You don't have the ability to take care of your family. And then there's, of course, all of the hoops that you have to go through and all of the rules that a grown-ass adult, doesn't have to go through. But if you have to get just a little bit of government assistance, you get treated like a 5-year-old who's a con artist trying to fucking steal from everybody. If you're disabled and you want $50 worth of services, they're going to make you work for it. It's going to cost you a lot of hours, and it's going to cost you at least $200 for every $50 worth of assistance that you get, not to mention all the time that it takes. All the days that you have to take out. All the wear and tear on vehicles that probably barely run if you have one. All it does is cost you more time, more money, and more resources. Why'd you get in trouble to begin with? Because you were broke. You popped a tire on the side of the road and couldn't replace the tire immediately. You got a fine because you couldn't pay a tow truck driver who towed it. Not that anybody gives a shit. You're not a human being anymore, you're a broke person. Alycia Bollinger is capable of doing work. She loves horses. I think she should have the opportunity to do that work. We call it penance for the horrible things that she's done by not coming forward. By lying to people, resulting in many people being harmed and many people being dead. I was very good at protecting people and rescuing people and getting them out of situations. Before what happened to me at the hands of the Bollinger family, I could have helped out Christine Buhit instead of her ending up dead. And yeah, she did reach out to me for help. She's dead instead, though, huh? I could have helped out Tabitha Michelle Cook. I could have helped out Rayanna Ingersoll. She's dead, by the way. I could have helped out Anna Hunka. She's dead, by the way. I did what Alycia wanted in Virginia. Natalie did what Alycia wanted in Virginia. And she killed us both for it. Now every time Alycia Bollinger wants attention and goes missing after getting all fucked up on drugs with her dad and going across multiple states in a high-speed chase with 18 grams of methamphetamines. Every time she does something stupid like that, you fucking crackheads get a hold of me. To pretend that I'm a drug addict that must have gone and abducted her and must have her tied up in a basement and be raping her right now, this very moment. And you threaten to kill my friends and threaten to kill my family and say, where is she? Where is Alycia? Well, Natalie's ex-stepmother gets a hold of me when she goes missing and says, hey, Alycia is missing. Please help find her. Just like when Natalie disappeared, I tried to help find her. And then there's Alicia's friend, Bobby Forrest, getting a hold of me when Alycia disappears, saying, hey man, help me find her. After all she's done to me, does she deserve for me to help find her? No. Does she deserve for me to love her as a human being and to remember who it was that she was to me in real life? Michelle Bollinger was good to me in real life. She loves horses. Maybe if she's around horses, gets to ride the horses, gets to work with the horses, maybe she'll stop giving a fuck about the makeup and looking like a fucking nice, fresh China doll to be impressive and pretty for everybody and being strung out on drugs. Maybe those goddamn horses will give her a fucking purpose in life, other than being a goddamn junkie who destroys people's lives. Michelle Bollinger is a horrible excuse for a human being. A horrible excuse for a human being. But if you got horses and you got shit that needs shoveled, throw a fucking shovel in her hand. Teach her about horses. Teach her how to love right. When you fuck up with a horse, you don't get to blame the fucking horse.